So my boyfriend Bobby, actually, both of us, we went to SIU for our degrees. So he got a photojournalism degree. So that's where he already had all these photography skills. And I went to SIU for graphic design and then marketing, and communications. So I was like, basically, I used to sew quite a bit of stuff and sell it at the Carbondale Farmers Market. So I always kind of knew I wanted to make things and be a creative person and, work for my own company, basically. So I was like, hey, I'm making stuff. I need pictures taken of this stuff to promote online. So he would help me take pictures. And then actually, right after graduation, I actually got a BFA in graphic design, and then a master's of science in professional media/media communications, media management from the communications department here. And so I basically, gosh, I'm trying to see where I'm going with this. So I graduated with that, and then I was still kind of like really wanting to work for myself. So I took a photography class, a 2-part photography class from SIU. It was called Applied 1 and Applied 2 with Dan Overturf. Great classes. So he's still teaching it to this day. And years later, I actually got to go back and speak to the class about all of the photography projects I had done around here too. So I took that photography class, and throughout the class, I was still a little bit hesitant on photography skills as far as setting the camera properly. So I would actually get a lot of help from Bobby with that too. And so we both were taking the class as community listeners, actually. It was a great program. So we did that, and then I realized through that I really liked photo styling more so than now. I know how to work the camera much better, and at most situations I can figure out kind of basically what the settings need to be for the camera. But for a very long time, I just would set it up, and then style it, and create the concepts, and then get help with photography and lighting. So that's kind of where our passions kind of came together and our talents came together. And through that, I also got to do a lot of just promotional work online, just with different marketing companies. Basically, I have 1.5+ million followers across Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook.
No big deal.
No big deal. It's an honor. And I basically signed up for Pinterest kind of when it was still an invite-only kind of thing. And at the time I got the invite, I got accepted on the platform. And I was like just saving, again, sewing projects. I was looking for things to sew for farmers market to sell. I go on there and find free sewing patterns. And Pinterest just became then my world because I got 1 million followers kind of within a few months. I think they were possibly recommending my account to everyone who joined. So, or they just liked what I was doing, who knows. So I did that, and then I started doing, originally I would just share content through for brands. So I would grab, like, with my graphic design skills, I would grab a photo of whatever product from the brand's website that they set me up with, and I'd have to share, say, 10 things in a week for this company, so 10 pairs of shoes. Well, I would add a little text or a little cute graphic to it, or collage a few images together, and put that on Pinterest, and it went really, really well. So then shortly after that, I was able to start creating actual content for brands, which was then very important. And I got to one of my most important projects, I think, was one where I got to work with Martha Stewart Living Essentials at Macy's. So they gave me a big, huge list of just SKU numbers, and I had to research all the products. And there was a cast iron skillet and some cute napkins and a pot holder, things like that. So I grabbed all that stuff, and then another great connection I made, which ties me in a little bit more locally, is I then wanted to also promote a local recipe with this cast iron skillet. So, and to my 1 million followers, So I contacted the Hatfields, and I said, hey, who run the McKenna Mushroom Farm, Flyway Family Farm. I said, hey, are you going to be at the farmer's market today? I want to come shoot photos of your booth, promote our local farmer's market, promote local, and use your mushrooms within a recipe, an organic recipe for a Martha Stewart related project on Pinterest. And then we created just such a great connection from there. And then another thing that came from that, couple Novembers ago, the Hatfields and I were in their kitchen, and we were like Jess Hatfield. So it's Mike and Jess Hatfield who run the Flyway Family Mushroom Farm. They have wanted to run a mushroom festival, host one for years. That was like one of their dreams. And with my marketing background, they're like, hey, would you help us set up a Facebook page for it? Let's do it. And we did. And so as you can see on my shirt, it is morel season. We have a morel on the shirt for our event to kind of commemorate Southern Illinois and all the amazing mushrooms that we have in the forest nearby. So across from the mushroom farm, just a little bit off Rocky Comfort Road, there's a camp. And it is called Camp Manitoba at Cedar Point. And Dan, the camp owner, has been amazing in helping us kind of organize this event too. And so basically we created that Facebook page before COVID. We really thought the event would happen sometime already, but it has yet to happen. Yeah. So we have it scheduled October 1st through 3rd of this year. So we hope to see you all in October. But basically there's a camp that's right across from their mushroom farm, and that's where we're going to host the event. So we're going to have educational workshops. We're going to have how to cook with mushrooms. We're going to have a small juried mini farmers market and juried artist market. We have had immense response from our community and local artists, local just makers, just local people who love to just go hike and look for mushrooms. Yeah. Local people who like to eat better and have found a lot of natural wellness through, eating better or eating locally or eating, say, something they foraged in the woods. It's just getting a lot of people into a better, healthier lifestyle. So that's also what we're trying to promote with this festival too. So we basically were originally going to host it in April of last year, but like I said, it'll be in October. So it'll be hopefully a lot of fun. We'll have a little bit of music, a little bit of art, like I said, local food, just camping, just a good outdoor experience of people just celebrating Southern Illinois, basically, and all the best parts of it. We're going to try to somehow kind of, help promote the Makanda Boardwalk as much as we can with all that. And
that's awesome.
Anybody in Makanda, really. So, and we'll probably hope to also have a lot of the, some of actually our local hemp farmers too. So there's actually one that I've helped work with a little bit too. They're Marion based. So that is called Squish Global. And I've helped do a little photography and marketing for them as well, too, as far as just some graphics, flyers, printouts, helped promote them online on Instagram, too. Just help get just the, again, natural plant-based wellness community in, with as many people as possible. So that's been really great, too. So, yeah, there's a lot of really amazing local people doing amazing things, just because they love it and because I think Southern Illinois is very conducive to living your dream in that way. Maybe you won't be up in a 30-foot high-rise with your office there here in Carbondale, but you really have a million other options of ways to kind of just basically just be a grassroots kind of company or brand or just mission that really, I don't know. I think just, promoting that wellness, is just something that's really important. And of course, through COVID, since a lot of us had to kind of get outdoors a little bit more than usual, I think that's really been a good thing too, honestly, as much as, people do or don't like, doing things outside. I think that a lot of us have found a lot of relief in it. And it's just been really good. So, and I don't know, and back with the festival too, even though it has been postponed, I think that we're going to be able to offer more coming up here. Basically, I know Marshall Anderson also is doing a lot with the music related production of it too. So him and Blackacre, and we also had a French Salon. They are one of our sponsors too. Nice, so nice. They're amazing people as well. And again, keeping it very local. So they're kind of like a stage sponsor basically for us. So yeah, we'll have a little bit of music each day. And like I said, the workshops, and actually we're also having one of the cooler speakers that we're going to have is so somebody who was kind of related to the Fermentation Science Institute here at SIU with Matt McCarroll. One of his students had moved up to Chicago, worked at Goose Island.
Oh, wow.
And they did a project a few years ago. They were making a beer called Scavenger. And they went to different places around, I think, Illinois, and they scavenged wild yeast. They foraged wild yeast. And I don't know the full process, but basically they take a petri dish around in I believe, some kind of swab, and they literally harvest yeast off of different pieces of wood or fungus or different things, different plants out in the forest. So the one that was the most delicious tasting one was actually from the Shawnee. So they commemorated yet again Southern Illinois with that. And so basically, his name is Tim, but he's going to come down and speak at the festival about foraging wild yeast. Because the festival is fungus and fermentation and local and wellness. You know, we have like a lot of ideas going on, but you know, it's kind of all the general idea of it. So so that'll be one of the speakers, and he's kind of got like a, you know, informational packet to kind of give people to, because a lot of people are brewing their own beer too. So, you know, hey, why not gather your yeast another way locally? So so that's pretty neat too. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of people. We probably have possibly Flow Dough, or her company name is Flow Dough Sourdough, but basically kind of an informational class on how to kind of more on sourdough and that type of fermentation too. I think we probably will have a kombucha kind of workshop too. We're talking about having a mushroom. We initially wanted to have like a catered mushroom dinner, but again, with the constraints of not wanting to have everyone around a big table at once, we're more having a kind of a cooking workshop, and with kind of like an optional meal kit purchase to where local farmers again we will suggest throughout the recipe or the recipes that she shows us, the chef, she can, you know, basically use local products, and then you can basically purchase a meal kit and, you know, cook it around the campfire. The camp has a lot of campfire rings and stuff. So so we're kind of trying to get in again, that whole local spirit and just showing the best of the best in, you know, Southern Illinois, basically. So and I'm considering putting up a banner for my festival, but I heard yours might have gotten torn down or something. I don't know if that happened recently.
Are you talking? Oh, no, I mean, that was just politics season. So it goes up. Yeah, no, that goes up. You know, until early April, and then the evening of an election, it comes right down.
Okay. I didn't know if it got taken down.
No.
Okay,
that's
good.
that would be every sign all over town.
Right.
Down for the season. No, you're good.
Thought someone stole it.
No,
All right. Well, I have hopes now. Okay, great.
I'm glad that there was like concern, like, oh my gosh, did that just go away? Like, it's just so prevalent now. Like, it's just a big, like, you can't miss it sign in the middle of town in a place where there's not usually a sign.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
No, you're
great.
good.
That's
good.
great. Okay,
That's funny
good.
though. I mean, I will now ask Aaron, be like, hey, do you want me to come put a sign stand back up in your yard and you can rent it out as a billboard?
Really.
I don't like, I feel like I hadn't even thought of that as like a thing, but now I'm gonna like picture on it. Like,
shoot,
hey.
Instead of renting out a room, you just rent the space on your yard.
Yeah. It's like Airbnb, but for signs. It's
right.
Oh my gosh. Is this the next giant $1 million business idea?
I don't know.
Get your 10% now, Katherine.
Yeah, right.
Like, if you don't.
Sure. Yeah, we created it here.
That's it.
Right,
that's
exactly. That's right.
And we are going to be doing a lot of creating here for this, give or take hour-long conversation on episode 53 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives and tie it all back together to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. And I am privileged to have as a guest on this episode, Katherine Accettura. Did I say that correct this time?
You did.
Awesome. Who is somebody that I appreciate because she does what I wish I could do in the online media space. So really, like, thank you. I feel like I'm in front of digital royalty in Carbondale right
Nathan.
now. So you said that you got over 1.5 million followers across all the different platforms. Like, did you ever think that was just going to like happen? Like, to have that much reach? And in a little old Carbondale.
No, absolutely not. And nope. And for a while I was just able to kind of do a lot of the kind of just food and product photography, my boyfriend and I and our dogs, we were able to travel quite a bit for like a couple years there, few years. And so we were kind of like, well, if there's internet, we can create content and then push it out there on Pinterest, you know? And it was like, actually, when I was doing it too, I basically, cell phones have really evolved, so you can do anything on your phone now. This was more of a time when I had to be like, oh, I'm hoping like a hotspot works maybe on a laptop or something, so signal wasn't as good. I mean, there's some constraints. So as a creative, you know, digital based person, I would do the workarounds digitally, but still, you know, now it would be a little easier with my, you know, nice new iPhone. It makes things easier. So, but yeah, so there were challenges, but again, you know, just even as a graphic designer, I found so many creative ways to make things work basically. So I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's wild, just the shift in maybe the past, you know, year with video and live video specifically, and like the difference. You know, I just got I've got a basic, whatever the Samsung like standard phone is right now. That's what I just picked up after 3 or 4 years of running a Google Pixel 2 that would struggle with any sort of live video because it wasn't built when live video was like the go-to from cell phones. People don't, you know, think about how live video in this way has not been very active for very long, yet it is purely impactful in the way that we exist and live our lives, which I'm really jazzed to like hear about your educational experience with SIU too. Cause I have zero context. We've never really chatted before. So like my thought of having an exploratory conversation, which is what I really look for out of these podcasts, very exciting because we live in the same world, but we don't have context for each other. And so I can like ask all these questions and like, be like, oh, I'm going to understand it. Like back and forth. So like, is that, and that's what brought you to Carbondale initially was school?
Yeah, definitely. I actually did try out ISU for a kind of a year, but I didn't really like it very much. The forest just wasn't there. So yeah, like, you know, basically Southern Illinois has just been much better. And I'm originally from Springfield, Illinois. So it's just a few hours, which is nice too. Bloomington was just 1 hour. But you know, it was just, this is just a much nicer area than that, just personally. So yeah. Yeah, as far as my education, I actually also went to Lincoln Land Community College in Springfield. I finished high school. I went to Chatham also for high school. So basically, I graduated a semester early, started in on community college, basically, started kind of taking classes right then. I just took as many classes and credits as I possibly could at that community college just to kind of save us some money, save my family some money, which they were very happy to help me out. I always did pretty well in school and had 2 jobs. You know, I was very busy. So they were very happy to be able to help me too through school. So that was great. And then I did ISU for years, and then came down to Carbondale and found I was going to actually do ceramics here. But then I always wanted to be a practicing kind of artist, utilitarian artist, but I realized if I had gone down the path of ceramics, that I would have to have a kiln and I would have to have a studio, many things that would just require a lot of supplies, very specific. So then I chose graphic design, and I always kind of had the 2D kind of like, I was just much better at 2-dimensional art compared to 3-dimensional art anyways. So you know, ceramics would have been great, but then I was like, well, with graphic design, like a hospital's going to need it, a small business is going to need it, an artist, you know, a musician, whoever. So I basically figured that, you know, graphic design was my kind of safest. And rather than trying to kind of go into custom graphic design work with logos and stuff, I was finding it was a little hard to work with clients because they wanted a little bit of what I guess I couldn't deliver. So I tried web design for a little bit, and actually through web design, I learned how to work in the blogging platforms a lot better. Actually, I took a really good class here. So through my graduate degree. So sorry, I guess I'll back up.
No. Yeah. Run it all through.
Cool.
You're great.
Yeah.
You're great.
Cool. So thank you. So basically through the graduate degree here, I got the communication design Bachelor's of Fine Arts here through SIU. And one of my teachers in my final semester, she's like, hey, did you know we actually have like a graduate degree that you might want to just consider? You might want to look into it. It's over in communications. And like I said, my boyfriend Bobby was already taking classes in communications in the photojournalism department. So I would go over there and be like, wow, the basement of the communications department had the nicest, newest iMac computers I'd ever seen. And I'm like, no offense, but over this many, 10 years ago or whatever, back in the art and design Blue Barracks building, what they suggested.
Well, there's somebody out there watching this podcast right now that's just heartbroken over your criticism of Blue Barracks.
Well, this was again 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's better now. So for the BFA degree, though, they actually suggested that you get your own Mac laptop. So for lucky me, I had to get a nice laptop. And so they didn't really have a computer lab for us. But so, I was able to kind of start working on my own machine, a really good machine right away. But then again, so no offense, but at the time, the Blue Barracks computer lab was like, well, here's some old computers from other buildings. Feel free. But again, they required us to have our own laptops, so they didn't need need it. So anyways, so I go over to that communications building. I'm like, well, I'm very happy with the what I got from my BFA undergrad, but this looks like the future of media, basically. So then I did the graduate degree it was very difficult. I did do the graduate degree in, like I said, I have a Master of Science in Professional Media/Media Management over in MCMA, Mass Communications Media Arts Department of Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. It's a very long degree. It's long. So I also, for my graduate assistantship, got to work in the admissions office there, and it was awesome. And it was really cool because I got to know the teachers' names before I even had them as teachers. Based on, doing paperwork, I got to know all the students' names even before I knew them. So it was a really good intro to becoming just familiarized with the program. And they figured, since I was kind of knew the area, had lived here for a little bit, they were like, well, you might be good in our admissions office to help students, find their way around town, suggest, food or whatever. So that was great. Like I said, there was a few very difficult media research-oriented classes that were very difficult, but I learned a lot. I became a much stronger person in it, all this, but I absolutely loved it. And then, I'm very proud to hold a master's degree from SIU, and also, so more currently, I work at the co-op now. So I've always been a vendor at the co-op, to where I was able to bring my hand-sewn goods into the co-op and sell them as a general merchandise kind of item. And I brought in some items, and I just saw that they were hiring for for some of their branding kind of work. So I will help put some of the flyers together. Today I did a DE, a Daily Egyptian ad. So every other week we have a full page ad on the back of their their newspaper. So I put those together. I do a lot of the print media and marketing there, or just the print media. So that has been outstanding too. So I do that a little bit, a few days a week, and then I'm able to focus on a lot of my other creative endeavors kind of the rest of the time, and go hiking.
Nice.
So leave a little bit of time for the forest therapy, as you can say.
Here's what I really appreciate about what you kind of blended together there in talking about all those different experiences, was this idea of utility. And you went from utility in a physical sense with something hands-on to utility in a digital space with media. How did that feel like a natural transition from physical to physical things to media, and applying that same utilitarian concept to how am I going to use this as a tool to do whatever I want and achieve whatever I want? Much of this in the case of food and wellness and all the
right yes and I never would really promote a product I didn't really believe in either, and a lot of them are utilitarian rather than something frivolous. Frivolous things are fun, but ultimately at the end of the day, I tend to go more in the utilitarian mindset, and basically anything I'd ever make would be something you could use for some real reason, some utility. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I hadn't really thought of that too much before. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, I think that, timelessness and, quality are very important in anything that, well, anybody really does. So I think that does go along with the utilitarian kind of spirit of things. And it's just good to kind of promote things that are, will last a lifetime, I guess you could say, but something you can kind of get behind because, well, I'm sure I have taken, product shots of, a few things maybe I would eat, years ago, but maybe I live maybe a healthier lifestyle now. Maybe I wouldn't eat, that chocolate cake now as much as I would say, back then or whatever. So yeah, so there's basically one thing that's really cool too that I really commend the co-op for actually is eating better, basically.
Yeah.
So food photography also did help me eat better as well. So
Really?
I would go in the co-op and look around, and I would basically, it would be, so initially the kind of food photography I would do would be, say, I'd be working with an online marketing company, and they would say, hey, we have a new client, say a pasta sauce company. They'd say, hey, well, you have to, if you like, go into the store where we're suggesting you go get the pasta sauce, take a picture of it in the store, and then buy it, take it home, and make a recipe out of it. So I would take the recipe, the product, and come home and style a really beautiful, it's called a flat lay, so you have all of your ingredients and things on one, surface, and you take a picture from above. So basically I would go in the co-op and say, well, I need a little greenery to go in with the, other ingredients, or beautiful noodles or something like that, So I would go in the co-op and I would be introducing myself to kind of new ingredients, and maybe the food photography project would also be a new ingredient I never would normally eat. So it really, a lot of this food photography and being able to have the co-op to have such beautiful local, it doesn't have to be local, but just beautiful produce and beautiful ingredients, that was really helpful too. So I was always kind of really just I always have cherished the co-op too. So that's been a kind of a neat thing. So I've worked there basically since last December, and it has been outstanding. And I've met a lot of amazing people too. And the people who are in the Mushroom Fest community and the Flyaway Mushroom Farm community, they're like the same community that shops at the co-op and works at the co-op. So again, we're kind of bringing things such a full circle without me having realized it, years ago, that a lot of these things would kind of come together. So it has been great. I see some of my favorite local people in there all the time, and it's awesome. So yeah, it's really cool. And then just, finding a place where there's so many like-minded people who do appreciate better lifestyle through being outdoors more, eating better, just living a happier lifestyle, just being active, it's great. So, and nice supportive local community really does help with that. And I know the farmers market has that community too.
Yeah.
So, and it's just kind of all, again, the same people who are just frequenting, all these places that I really appreciate. And I see some of them at some of our local concerts that are kind of coming back as well. So that's another place before COVID, a lot of the best shows I think we had were probably at Hanger and at PK's, and that's where I see some of my other favorite people too. So, and then actually I really appreciate all the virtual varsity shows you guys have been doing, because they have been great, really kind of something to actually look forward to music-wise, through all of this. I was watching most all of them live even. So it really was something that was kind of helping a lot of us kind of get through a little doldrum of no local music. So we really appreciate what you guys are doing here.
No, thank you.
We really do.
It's been an interesting experience, just going from zero technical skills whatsoever 13 months ago to a depth of technical skills now that really just barely scratched the surface of stuff. And that's what really impresses me again about you and folks that are like you, that have such you're so deep into what you do, creative wise. Like for me, and I talk about this pretty regularly, like my art is just talking. Like that's it. Like when I was in the communications building, it's because I was studying communication without the S, which if you've been around us kind of people, you know exactly what that argument is like.
You're right. Yes. Yes. We need people like that. It's great. We do.
So like for me, the thing that was always like tangible was the interaction, right? The performance, the word, the feeling associated with just the verbal aspect of art, which is something that most people don't recognize really as art to begin with, because it's so common that we communicate by talking, that nobody sees it as a next stage. Like not everybody paints, not everybody makes photography, but you know, for the most part, folks talk. You know, outside of folks who are differently abled and don't have you know, some of these actions that they can produce. But aside from that, like folks are they just look at it, it's just talking.
We've become just more visual people because of the internet and because of our phones. I mean, it's probably, we just take, you know, the spoken word for granted. I mean, oration used to be, you know, more of a thing. So I mean, in a way, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it basically, and I basically think that, you know, there are much older generations, they are still passing things down through spoken word, but, you know, younger people, maybe they're communicating much differently, so some of these messages aren't really coming across as they should. So yes, we sometimes really take it for granted, but we do need to sit back and listen a little bit better, you know? Yeah.
A little bit more radio in our lives.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, because, you know, you can listen to that and do something else, but I think podcasts are coming back quite a bit now, and
so that one's been really interesting to me. When I had John Pollitt on the show several months ago, he was talking about Pinckney Benedict and a lot of folks that are in the communication school, and I don't know if they're folks that you would have engaged with through your so it's technically an MFA.
No, I'm sorry, it's an MS.
Or it's an MS. Okay,
yes,
cool.
yes.
But you got in a BFA.
Yeah, so there's a BFA and an MS, and there's also an MFA, and then there's an MA. Okay. So, but the MS was a more practitioner, again, more utilitarian degree. So if they said if you were wanting to have clients in your, you know, within your media, you know, work, you'd go for the MS at the time. And then they said if you want to research media and write about it, maybe the MA would be better. So. Yeah, and because SAU is a research institute, I mean, you know, it is. So, but I took it more as a practitioner kind of avenue. So
okay, sorry, I got a little off. I was like, okay, cool. How do all these letters come together? I was like, I have my bachelor's degree and I got out. That's what I. That's
well,
that's what
I was
Nathan
going
did.
to, but like I said, the teacher just encouraged it, and I was like, I'll just try. So, and I kind of got through the program a little bit quicker than some, but I just piled on the credits basically, so it was a lot, but it was worth it. It was great. I would really recommend to anybody who has a bachelor's to considering a master's degree, because it is really fun. Especially I went into the master's degree kind of right after my bachelor's, but I had a lot of credits already, so I was really like, I had a lot of schooling, but I didn't have a lot of practical, you know, experience yet. But I think they're considered non-traditional students, I believe, if you don't go right from, you know, one degree to the other. But we had a few non-traditional students, and I think they probably got a lot more out of it than I even did, because I had never been in the field before for some of this stuff. And, you know, I'd worked for myself, but I'd never had a professional career yet of it. And so I think those who had, and maybe were coming back, you know, they might be a little bit more targeted on what they're needing out of that degree, and just like they already know what they want, rather than like, oh, I'm learning, you know, I might do this, I might do that. I don't know. No, you already have experience and you know what you are doing already. So, so I just recommend to anybody, you know, to consider that. And luckily through the graduate assistantship, like program, again, this was 10 years ago, so there's, I believe, different funding at the time, but basically I was able to work 20 hours a week, get a stipend, and then I was able to they helped pay for tuition. So without that, I would not have even been able to really do it. But I was like putting the time. So yeah, there's ways. I mean, a lot of people do a teaching assistantship, of course, too, but I rather would have just I don't know, learned my skills the way I did. So yeah, it was great. Yeah, there's some amazing people at SAU. Another really fun thing that I'm actually working on now. I'm just working on a lot of things.
Good.
So basically, SAU has a new center, basically. So it's called the Center for Cannabis Science, and it is basically. It's several different schools are kind of coming together to basically do industrial hemp research here in Carbondale.
I'll give you a little insight. Buck's my neighbor.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm working with Buck too. Again, with my digital experience, that's awesome. I'm doing their website. So we had to work within the SIU template, but I did a lot of the graphics and stuff and a lot of organizing. Buck was just extraordinary and putting a lot of this information together for us. There's a lot of people to keep track of, basically, who are involved, and he did an outstanding job kind of keeping everybody's kind of points together and all of that. So he basically, I actually had met Buck just through his music. So
that makes total sense. Of course you would know Buck through his music. That's great.
Yeah, so he plays harmonica for Till the Morning Comes, our local Grateful Dead cover band. So I'd seen their shows, and then I just got to talking to him because I had friends that said, oh, he was my professor. I'm like, he's a professor? Okay. What? And
so this goes, I love, this is a perfect time for a break-in.
Yes.
Episode 53 is when I finally make this reference, and I feel like I've been waiting on it the whole show. A guy that I used to do stand-up comedy with, Kyle Scanlon, he works in Chicago now. He's part of the Lincoln Lodge, and he plays Laugh Factory on the regular, and he's an ascending comedian in the Chicago scene. He had a joke while in Carbondale where he was like, Carbondale is the only place on the planet where a guy with a ponytail is going to be smarter than you.
Oh my gosh.
and let's just talk about how much smarter than everybody Buck is.
Yeah, I know.
And how good that ponytail is.
Absolutely. There's a little purple streak in his hair recently too.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I hadn't taken note, but I will next time I see him walking the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Just check it out. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, his research on originally on, of course, ovarian cancer, and basically he's doing outstanding research, and I like that he promotes prevention is going to be I'm probably getting this wrong, but he's basically touting prevention as the cure. And I absolutely love that. So of course he was doing flax seed research. I don't really want to go too far into that right now. You can look his research up online.
Yeah, no, I'll do a podcast with Buck himself. You don't have to. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
You do your thing, what you're comfortable talking about, and I'll bring him on here and squeeze his brain a little bit.
Oh, that sounds great. So yeah, so he's doing cancer research, and basically now in partnership with the School of Agriculture, he has been able to, and School of Medicine, he has been able to do anti-cancer research with CBD. And so they're basically, I mean, the fact that now SIU is going to be able to work in the cannabis space, medical cannabis space, right on the website, I wrote the future of cannabis in Southern Illinois. And I think that that's also going to be a fun tagline in a way too. So, so I know, there's a lot to it, but our local hemp-related, entities, I guess you could say, because there's producers and there's cultivators and there's just quite a bit. But yeah, there's so much going on with that locally too, and that is just now kind of emerging. So
I wish I had $300 million, and I've been I've seen some of the back end stuff, just by luck of being around. I mean, there really is there's a possibility that we could see a $1 billion industry crop up, no pun intended,
right?
Right here that networks out all over this region. It won't just be centered. It won't just be like it's held up in in the Metro East, or it's held up in Mount Vernon, or it's held up on the eastern part, or it's held up in Carbondale, or wherever. Like, it's going to be everywhere, and we just have to be there to capture it at the right time,
right?
And then everything changed, and it's so funny. I mean, I've another person that I'm working to get on the podcast, Hugh Muldoon. I mean, this has been probably like 4 years when I was stumping on, hey, like Carbondale needs to be a center for, hemp agricultural activity. Like,
Absolutely.
we may not have the massive agriculture occur right here, but like we can be the center for the business around it, right? If we have access to the fields all within 2 hours, here as kind of the metropolitan center of the Southern Illinois hemp industry, and ergo the entire like national hemp industry, like
we'll become a global competitor, actually, is what we can become if we get a processing center for hemp here soon. That's like, of course, some of the constraints to Kentucky. Kentucky hemp is actually since I've been doing research for the local hemp related, entities, I found a lot more research, a lot more going on in Kentucky, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we're like right across the border from that. And I'm sure some people work within both states just on different things. But basically, so they're kind of paving the way in a way. But like, luckily, we do have this little pocket here in Southern Illinois where we can actually now educate basically students and farmers, but I think a big goal of the center is to educate people who are already in the field.
Yeah.
So people who work in dispensaries, even people who are in the medical field, maybe that kind of thing. And actually, the School of Agriculture, there is actually a certification program that you can take. It's like a 30 credit certification program. So before the center has an actual full, 4-year type of degree with that. Now it's just a specialization in the department, or sorry, I keep saying department.
No, you're good.
There's
so many like offshoots of what these things
it's
are.
It's the School of Agriculture. Yeah. So yeah, it's not Illinois Department of Agriculture, but we had a fantastic Zoom meeting a month or so ago, the Southern Illinois Hemp and Cannabis Symposium, and Buck led that. Buck did part of that. Actually, a lot of other people were involved too, but actually one of the more interesting parts was when a gentleman from the Illinois Department of Agriculture was able to speak to us and actually answer questions from people who may even have, this is just beyond CBD too, but who may have their licenses in and stuff like that, or applications in. So it was really outstanding, and the fact that IDOA is so in support of what SIU is doing here with the CBD research, it is outstanding, because I think having the backing of that and backing of School of Medicine, it's great. And they're trying to do a lot of course, touch a little bit on the opioid alternative programs with cannabis too. And of course, as we probably all know, there's just a million ways it can help, but it hasn't been until recently, 2018, I believe, where the farm bill changed in Illinois to where hemp is considered one of the 4 recognized crops, high value crops. So soybeans, corn, wheat, perhaps, and cannabis now. So yeah, as long as it's below a 0.3% THC, it's going to be okay with the state. So for CBD. So basically, oh gosh, yeah, and of course, like you're talking, just the fertile grounds around us. I mean, we have a lot going for us in that way. So we already have a strong farming community here. I mean, and then a very strong small farming community too. Yeah. Because there's small hemp farms around here everywhere that are popping up, and even at the co-op, we have like a good little selection of some of the local hemp and stuff. So we basically, it's just like, again, just supporting those local people and like finding ways to embrace them and support them, and see how you can just help, even like going back to the digital world, maybe share their post or something, however you can help these little local all these little local businesses like that are trying so hard through all of this. I'm sure little things like that, you might not think it'll help, but it'll help a lot.
Well, and you are at the intersection of a place, and again, I don't talk to a lot of people that have very similar positions and stakes in this activity, but between the hemp world and in the cannabis science world, in the communication and the media world, right, which are 2 things that we are positioned as a community to break out with. Right. And like, if we want to talk about what the future of Carbondale looks like, and ergo the future of Southern Illinois, it looks like cannabis, and it looks like media.
Yeah.
And, if we ask about, well, where is SIU at on these things? The answer is the forefront.
Yes.
Right? On both sides of things. And you
Right.
bring them together and you recognize that this is not just a regional trend. This isn't just a trend in our section of the country, but it's a national trend. It's a global trend.
Yeah.
And if we can ride this out again as a little old community in Midwest, America, that we can have a global, good job, Squish.
Yeah,
impact.
right? Exactly. Yeah.
That'd be $15, Lawler. No. But I mean, these are very real. These are very real things, and where you see industries around this country and again around this globe that have popped up around things like petrochemicals and other highly problematic industries. I mean, here we've had coal and oil extraction that has been problematic. That I got to live a very comfortable life because my father was a coal miner. Don't get me wrong. Like, woohoo, yay. Right. I got a comfortable life over here. Oh no, we killed the planet on this other side. And it's like, you mean to tell me that hemp is a mix of, can both help by doing all of these things, but also remediate soils and waters and other things where pollutants have seeped into nature, and it can draw it out of the ground. It's like, oh, cool. Right. Now just add one more thing that we are in the laboratory of life in existence. And,
that's absolutely. That's great. That's a really good way to put it. It's very well thought out. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and again, being at the forefront too. That's kind of what Professor Buck Hales is also just saying too. And as I've been researching too, a lot of I was kind of trying to go down the internet wormhole of kind of also seeing what other cannabis type related programs and degrees there are out there. Mm-hmm. There are not many. There really aren't. And Kentucky does have a little bit of it. Their program looks really good, but there's not really anything around here either. And I think that's how it kind of was with the Fermentation Science Institute as well, because of course they had to gain centership, and that's what you have to do when you're opening a new center anyways. So especially basically, and I know the Fermentation Science Institute, they really they have very nice facilities, amazing equipment and everything too. So, and I think the program was pretty small to begin with, but I'm not sure of their numbers or anything now, but we have still probably one of the few in the country, really. So, and anything kind of progressive like that can bring more people to Carbondale or to Southern Illinois is going to also help us immensely too. It really is. So, and I mean, I think that I don't know. I think that there are probably more, non-traditional students more than ever now too, realizing that there are some of these new fun degrees that weren't available even 10 years ago or more. Yeah. And so that's kind of going to open quite a bit up too. So, and I think there's been, grants and scholarships raised already through some of the cannabis related programs. So if there's funding behind something, I'm sure, we have a little bit of a better advantage there just to begin with at least. So anything that, anything we can do to, make this area as good as possible. We're going to try to do it, I guess. So
God, you're
it's great.
It's you're not just an enthralling person because you're a very interesting person. To me, this is one of my favorite podcasts that I've done just because it's so relatable for me to listen to you talk and be like, man, every bit of faith that I had into coming into this conversation, you've just blown away and ran past it because it's wow, you really are everywhere doing everything in the right way and so much better than so.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Really do.
Cycling back to the actual creative content aspect, because you were talking about the setting up of, you said, a flat.
Yeah, a flat lay. It's just type of photography. It's basically a type of photograph. So, so I would kind of, I would even always want to have flowers, in my photographs. So a couple times I would go to the Jackson Street, community garden over there and see what flowers were blooming, and then take a couple. I'm sure they were hopefully okay with it. Grab a few blooms and then take that home and then put it in my photograph for, my pasta sauce recipe or whatever. So, and then I also got to do a few that were really fun. So like I said, we would be able to shoot some of this content while we're traveling. So say, for instance, we were in Florida one time, and we were just vacationing there, and I also had a project for a client for L'Oreal, and so I got to do L'Oreal hair and makeup. So basically what I had to do was basically show this certain, lipstick and certain hair products and stuff that some new products they had out. And, I got to basically be on a beach in Florida with taking photos for this fun, for this well-known global brand. And so it's kind of like also what I realized when I was shooting some of those photos, basically I follow a ton of other bloggers too, and lifestyle bloggers, food photographers, general, just people with cool lifestyles, obviously. So I realized that you're kind of you're selling a product, but you're really selling the lifestyle that product will give you. So you want to kind of be like sharing content that inspires. I think it always needs to be inspiring, but it inspires someone to live that same life, to want to maybe have that product or be in that place hiking too or whatever, and inspire someone to get into the whatever message you're trying to send. So that's what I was kind of realizing too, and more so than say just trying to sell something like, oh, here's the product, like you need it. No, like how can it make your life better?
Yeah.
And so I always try to promote that inspiring content. But I basically, I don't know. I mean, it was, boring as you might think a jar of pasta sauce could be. Well, there's a lot of recipes that you can get on Pinterest and look at, and again, incorporating local ingredients or something like that too, So, but yeah, once I think that I realized that the whole more lifestyle of it was great compared to like having to nail the sharpest picture of the pasta sauce on a white background, a little bit of a different thing. So once you kind of get, and I actually recommend that for a lot of local businesses or small businesses too, rather like say you have an Instagram account or Facebook, rather than just simply showing your products all the time, like show your products being used during like a picnic in the woods or on a hike with your family or out by the lake or something like that, and just get that lifestyle in there. And there's so many beautiful places around Southern Illinois too that you could take your products. But I think a lot of them do that. Like there's a coffee shop in Carterville that they have some of the best local lifestyle images I've ever seen of their coffee. I'm sorry, the name's escaping me. But and then they'll say they did a photo shoot at Garden of the Gods with the coffee at sunrise, stuff like that. So I think there's really amazing people who are doing that in this area. And I think that, that's one way that I always kind of was hoping, would hope that, as many local businesses and stuff could kind of do, because you just want to show the beauty of kind of like, I don't know, basically like there's a lot of really hardworking people around here that are doing amazing things. And, especially as a marketer or a graphic designer or photographer, there's very simple ways to kind of like just highlight and promote how amazing some of these are. Yeah. And another really fun project that I was able to work on with the Flyaway Family Farm was I got to design some of their newer labels. So they have a line of medicinal mushroom tinctures. Some of the mushrooms they've cultivated, some they've foraged, and then they all have medicinal properties. I got to redo a lot of their labels, so we kind of went with like an apothecary vintage kind of look. And they're so great to work with too. They're absolutely amazing with inspirations and throwing ideas back and forth too. And then they have also a lot of their packaging for all of their mushroom jerky. I did a lot of those labels too. And then some of their other products, just basically you'll find a lot of them at the farmers markets. So they do the farmers market here, and then they do the farmers market in Champaign sometimes too. And they were big supporters of the winter market too, held through FoodWorks. So yeah, again, bringing in that little local community and everything. But and also showing, I really enjoy also photographing the products at the farmers markets and stuff too. So kind of just getting that communal, local kind of, feel back into things too. But it's just like some of these people are working so hard, and it's just like I love just using a little bit of my media and graphic skills to just put that final little touch on things, and just share with the world. And I try to share things as much as I can to, my local or to my like larger following, because you never know who's seeing this stuff sometimes. I mean, you can kind of tell through analytics, of course, but you never know who sees what.
Well, and here's the, I'm on the back end of a lot of your activity, right? Cool, I mean, there's any number of things that you can pick up and run with that. I'm like, oh, I see where Catherine's running off with this, and she's promoting that, and and it's like, thank you.
Yeah,
like
good.
I appreciate that because it's just you're doing the toughest part of this kind of work, and the toughest part is not capturing the lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's living the lifestyle and capturing it along the way.
Yeah,
and people miss that trick to it. That there's a reason why the best of the best people at what they do are that. It's because they're not doing it just because, that's work and I've got to do it. They're doing it because, that's the life that they live.
Right.
So thank you for living that life.
Oh, thanks. No problem. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You never realize how good it is for you. Honestly, you just never know. Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh my goodness. No, this is, I can, I've always, there are times when I'll look at my phone and I'll see the same person has followed 3 of 15 pages that are in my pocket.
Sure.
Right? Like at any given point in time, I'm like, oh, okay, this person's just trying to become part of this social fabric that apparently I've already set up for somebody else to engage with. So, and you see folks jump in and you're like, oh, wow, am I really involved in that much stuff? Right. And I'm sure you at any point in time are thinking the same thing. Like, am I really involved in, you've got Squish, you've got the cannabis science program, you've got the co-op, you've got, and again, I'm just starting to track off because I've now forgotten all of the different things.
Right.
Does it? So here's my big question.
Yeah.
That is like a question of mind that now I've got to ponder on myself. Does it feel overwhelming sometimes to have a hand in so many brands? And just that's it. I'm not going to start trying to describe my personal experience by complaining about the question. And just say, does it feel overwhelming sometimes, or does it feel natural to you to just embody these brands as you go along?
Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't really ever really promote anything I didn't already believe in or didn't use regularly, as far as say Squish CBD oil or something. So, something like that, I really, really wouldn't promote it. And also if I think it can maybe it's a flavor of something I don't prefer, but I know it might be something that's just amazing, and local, I still am gonna promote that for somebody. So, but it is I would say, sure, it's a little overwhelming, but I've always had multiple jobs. So I've never really, happy doing just one thing, I guess you could really say. And funny enough, I'll take a break from one project to work on another project, and that's my break from one project to me working on another. But I want to do this stuff while I am inspired to do it, while I'm healthy and motivated to do it, while I'm physically able to do it. So, it is helpful. I know I can't be as helpful as I can't be a 10 out of 10 helpful on every project because I am, sometimes spreading it thin. But then again, some of the projects, they're not taking every day to work on. So, I'll do them when I get a chunk of time. And in the meantime, I get to kind of gather ideas and then put the work in on it. So it is overwhelming, but I
like how we got to the honest part. You were like, all right, here's I'm going to say the nice things up front about how I love this, but then I'm also going to get real about, it can kind of be a bit much sometimes.
It is, but literally with, no shows, none of that stuff. I mean, they're coming back, but a lot of the stuff that was taking a lot of my time, it just isn't there anymore, really. So that's another thing. I'm filling my time with more productive stuff than I maybe was. So I don't know. I want to feel good going to sleep each night that I've had a productive day, and I try to make the most of every day and encourage others to do the same. And I really I don't know, just people around Southern Illinois inspire me more than probably people from anywhere else. So that's been pretty helpful too. You get that good community, don't tell me this town ain't got no heart. You just got to poke around.
That's
and,
right.
You just got to find the good group of people who are doing things that inspire you and try to get a piece of it if you can. And otherwise, just use it to inspire you for your next project or next endeavor or whatever. So, so that's kind of how I think about it. But
You know how I said at the start of this thing,
Yeah.
like I usually like wait until around an hour and then so you'll usually just like land on some, prolific thing and like you did it perfectly.
Thanks.
Like
all right. Hey, you
like
set it up right.
Like if that was an Olympic high dive, like that was a 10 out of 10 on the spins and the perfect down in the water. No, that's
Yep, thank
but
you.
no,
Appreciate it.
that's cool. I mean, it really just is. This has been a very uplifting conversation. I'm usually very when I walk away from these podcasts, I feel like, I really do have another, story of Carbondale that matters and means something to the greater social fabric of this place. But like leaving this conversation, I feel energized more personally about what I do, and I thank you for that being contagious. And I hope that this has been some energy that's been just as contagious for you for episode 53 of the WTF Carbondale podcast, where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives and tie it all back to this little old place we call home. And Katherine is for sure one of those interesting people living those interesting lives and is, as you can tell, very intricately woven into this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. So thank you again, Katherine. I appreciate you, and have a good one, folks, whatever that one may be.